It is roundtable time on YesNetwork.com as we talk about expanded instant replay for the 2014 season. Jack, it's been an evolution to get to this point. Is this a good thing?
It's definitely a good thing, Bob. I think we could debate how they're going to get to the replay and the challenges and whether you should have maybe somebody in a central location and just challenge anything that's close and let them decide. But I don't think you can debate that baseball needed this. I'm not sitting too far from a gentleman who pitched a perfect game in David Cone. That is a very select group, and he could talk to us about that. How do you think Armando Galarraga would have felt if they had replay when he should have had a perfect game? And Jim Joyce, as great an umpire as he is, he blew the call. Kenny Galarraga lost that chance for the perfect game. That shouldn't happen anymore with this challenge system.
Jack, I would agree with you. It shouldn't happen. We've seen this coming the last couple of years. We've been hurtling towards instant replay. We've seen a lot of blown calls from the umpires, and I think the umpires themselves are happy that it's here. The only thing I want to see happen with it, I want to see it done as quickly as possible. I don't want things to go on and on and on. You see that in football games during the winter. When you're ready for the decision to be made, it seems like they can't seem to make it.
Well, you can't argue with the fact that the sport needed replay. The technology is there. Yes Mo, which we have on Yes Network, is so good. You could see if a guy's out or safe, and you could correct a call. The thing that I don't like about this replay system, and I like overall that they're trying it, is that they're turning it into a game within a game. It's almost like a card game within a baseball game. Do I hold my challenge? Do I wait? I mean, it shouldn't be like that. The whole idea about instant replay, get the calls right. So when you run out of challenges, there's a chance that they might not go to the replay to find out whether they're right or wrong. That's not the way to do it. That's not what this is about, and I just think that's where they drop the ball. Every time that there's a call that's close, rather than have an umpire come out and argue with the manager or vice versa, just go to the replay and check it. Don't have challenges. That's what I don't like.
Hey, well, you got to give the manager something to do, you know. Baseball managers have always been kind of, hey, what do you guys write out the lineup, you know, maybe make a pitching change, but yeah, Joe Torre's behind a lot of this, obviously, you know, with his role in Major League Baseball, so they certainly have a lot of good advice, and I know he surrounds himself with good people as well. So, you know, I agree with you on the surface, Michael. You know, you don't want this to turn into a game. You just want to get the calls right. But at the same time, there's a little drama. You know, fans at home are going to be watching, throw the flag, throw the sock, whatever he has to do, get on the field. Managers are going to have to get on the field and sort of decide and look back to the bench and, you know, and get a key sign from the bench and figure out whether the challenge or not. Is there going to be gamesmanship? Will managers go out and maybe challenge if they need a bullpen guy to get some extra tosses in the bullpen late in the game? There's all sorts of things that could come up here, and a lot that we probably haven't even thought of yet. But you know, it's going to be interesting to see, and things will work themselves out. And if changes need to be made on down the line, they'll be made.
You know, you mentioned the manager making these decisions. How about the guy who's in the video room watching the replays? And he's a support staff person or maybe a coach. You know, each organization has a different philosophy about it. There is so much responsibility for that person on the walkie-talkie to Joe Girardi or any other manager. Yeah, that's a play I would challenge. Right. And now we're talking about somebody who's in the clubhouse making a pivotal decision during the course of a game.
In a way, it's his call, right? He's going to say, you need to challenge this, and he better be right.
That's an awful lot of responsibility for somebody who's not used to having all that responsibility. We'll see how it plays out.
Give some starting pitchers something to do on their off days, too. You know?
You do have to give credit to baseball, because I think baseball sometimes gets caught in its past, and baseball's past and the tradition is a big part of what the game's about. But I think that sometimes we get stuck there, and the game sometimes is too slow to actually act to things that they should react to. And this is a good thing. Football's had it for a long time. Baseball should have it. I think it's just a point of making the system the right system. I'm not sure that this system is perfect, but the fact that they finally have replay in the game, we have to celebrate that. We have to say that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
You know, I do believe, as we talk about an evolution, Jack, this came to fruition very quickly last year. They put it together. They put it in action in the Arizona Fall League and then in spring training. So there are a lot of bugs to work out. I mean, this might look vastly different a year or two from now.
It could look different, and I think there are a lot of wrinkles that we're going to see from each team. David and John referenced it, but Joe Madden has already talked about the following. Guy on second, ground ball to the left side that ends the inning. If the first baseman scoops it or maybe has some footwork issues, but the umpire still calls him out, Madden has instructed his first baseman and telling his infielders, throw the ball to third base. The guy who's on second is going to give up. Tag him. So that's your third out. in case they challenge and find out that the guy was safe at first. There are going to be all sorts of things like that that I think managers are going to have to do.
Well, Joe Madden's one of those innovative managers, and I heard this very same thing. So he's thinking ahead. I'm sure other managers are doing the same. Maybe they're not letting their intentions be known at this point. But as David said, they're ways gaming the game itself. And it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
And one of the things that's going to be really interesting, baseball is a game of continuation. So one call goes one way, the continuation of the game ends, or you have to say, well, where does that runner go if you reverse the call? And there's going to be a camera on top of every stadium, so the umpire that reviews it could actually see where the base runners were, where the outfielders were. But something that's not going to be put into it, okay, do you take into account the right fielder's arm? All right, if it's Hideki Matsui out there, he doesn't have a good arm. If it's, Ellis Valentine, he had an unbelievable arm. So does the umpire all of a sudden become a scout and say, well, that guy doesn't have a good arm, so the guy would get thrown out? It's a little hinky there. I don't know what they're going to do.
Hinky, I like that. Good. Well said. Yeah, it is. It's going to get worked out. It's the right thing to do because there's so many big calls that have been blown that have affected seasons, affected jobs, affected fans who pay a lot of money to go to the game. So no doubt that, the intention is good. The intent of the rule is good. It needed to happen. But baseball's different. Michael's right. It's not like football where you throw the sock on the field and you've got time and the referee can go look at the play. There's a lot of judgment calls. There's a lot of things in action as the play unfolds. Joe Madden, as Jack said, is exactly right. Does the guy go back to third? The runner stopped running around third. They reversed the call. Was he halfway home? Would he have scored? Did the outfielder's arm? There are a lot of variables. You need to simplify it and get back just to the basics. Was the call right or wrong?
I think the biggest thing that came out of this discussion is that during a game this year, I guarantee David will use the word hinky.
There's no doubt. He's already
he's already thinking about where and when.
Final thought on this, and there's a big difference, Jack, between a challenge in the third inning and a call at the end of the game, a game-winning call. When are we going to have that wow moment that a game is decided in that last second by an umpire on replay?
And you know what? It's going to happen because the first time they tried to use it in spring training, it really didn't go as well as I think they wanted to. They didn't have great angles, and if you watch the replay, you really couldn't tell. It was a play at first, and the umpire had called him safe because the first baseman's foot had come off the bag, so we're going to have it early, and I think you're right. It's vastly different if in the second inning you're leading 2-0, and they call a hit batter. And, well, did that pitch really hit him? I'm not challenging that, I don't think, if I'm an umpire. I'm saving my challenge for something at the end of an inning, something big, something dramatic, even in the early innings.
Michael, we did a game a couple of years ago in Baltimore, and Mark Teixeira was called out to end the game, and the tying run would have scored. I think with replay, that they would have changed that. And the game would have been tied. The game would have gone in extra innings. We don't know who would have won, the Yankees or the Orioles. But that particular night, I think Jerry Meals was the first base umpire. He immediately called Teixeira out. It was obvious by replay that he was safe. And the replay wasn't in vogue in those days, and the game was over.
I remember that. Teixeira was upset.
Oh, yeah.
Think of how his mood would have changed with replay. He wouldn't be that irate. Post-game, he'd be happy.
I think he was also dealing with a leg issue, too,
yes,
and he re-injured himself on that play. Yeah. So that was a costly play.
That is part of it. Excuse me, Bob. That is part of it because, holding grudges is a big part of the game. Against that umpire, against that guy. We still think about a call.
Yeah, there's still umpires I don't like.
Still up. And that was kind of a nice part of the game. I kind of like holding grudges sometimes, but that's going to be a thing of the past nowadays, and it takes the pressure off of everybody, including the umpires.
I still hold grudges.
It's healthy.
It sounds like David does too. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for joining us on YesNetwork.com.